I'm Ryan Osbeck with Copeland Canada, representing Vilter Manufacturing. Let's get into it.
Back again with the Vilter HPLD single screw compressor at the Hydro-Quebec Research and Development Center in Quebec. This time we're going to change out the oil filter. Just a little how-to video on this one. Should be fairly short, simple. Pretty typical and common, so a lot of this is even good for regular oil filter maintenance. So this canister bowl on this filter, does have the lower nut to take it off, so you're going to need your wrench or socket to turn this one off, as it doesn't have that upper collar that you would find on typically on compressors of this size in the Vilter packages. So you're going to loosen it off, and then you can take it off by the hand. Now, hopefully you've done what I've done already, and you've depressurized and isolated this compressor. Everything is locked out for safety. That's definitely a key point to start with all your safe work practices, is safety first. Well, safety second, coffee first. But you want to make sure everything is locked out. You don't want to have any risk of danger for you or anyone else in your work area. So make sure you're working safely and to the best of your abilities. Lock it out, depressurize, and then check before continuing with work. Make sure that the system is in fact depressurized and safe. So take the cooler, we're going to take that canister off, we're going to drain all the oil out. I set the filter down to the side just to live in a little catch tray there so the oil doesn't spill out anywhere. Take a look down inside that cylinder once it's out. And what I'm looking for here, I'm going to put a little cloth underneath it. I'm going to drain down into the cloth. And what I'm looking for is any metal debris or deposits. With all the heavy metal stuff, it's going to sit down in the bottom. It'll come out in the catch end. Even if you tilt it all the way up, and even with the filter, like I did drain a pile of oil out of this filter canister first. There's still, if there was going to be oil metal in there, it'll be in there all the way to the very end. This time I had no metal, so we're good to continue. Looking inside the filter housing, you got an O-ring and a Teflon ring. So that's the O-ring there. You pull that down, it sits just above the threads, and then inside there's a little groove, and then there's a Teflon ring that comes with it. So with these CO2 and high pressure oil filters, you get the O-ring and the Teflon ring as part of the kit, as well as the filter element. So you can see the O-ring, the Teflon ring is still up there in the groove. It's that little white ring. You're going to get inside it with a pick, just turn it out. So you watch it just drop out there. Now I gotta scramble and pick it up. There, Teflon ring. O-ring Teflon rings, you're going to inspect for damage. Make sure they're not cracked, worn, cut. Make sure they were installed properly the first time. Perhaps you might have had leaks previously. If everything is in good condition and perhaps you just need to change an oil filter because of high differentials, then you can carry on after your brief inspection. So the Teflon ring you're going to put in first. It takes a little bit of locating to make sure it's centered right. The Teflon is nice and malleable, so it doesn't take much, but you definitely want to make sure it's entirely inside that groove. And then once you get it set, and it does sometimes take a minute here, as I'm showing you by example, as I'm definitely not getting it right away. It does take a minute to get it set, but once it's in, it won't fall out. It's easy to make sure that it's in. You can do by feel, get underneath visually, use a mirror, whatever you need to do, get it set. There's a little bit of oil left in there, so I just kind of rubbed it around, get that oil on. Then you move on to the O-ring. The O-ring, definitely want to use fresh oil. Get some oil on that and set it up inside and get it in position. Now, it sits just above the threads, right below the groove for the Teflon. So there's a little shelf there. That's what the Teflon is going to be in, and that's where you're going to press the O-ring against. So I've got the new filter ready to go. I'm just going to get some stuff out of my way here. I'm going to move this pail of oil to the side, and then we'll prepare the rest of it. So I'll get the oil moved. I'll move this spare filter, or the old filter, out of the way. because that's exactly where I'm going to need to go next. And I like to wipe and clean as I go as best as possible. I use the oil absorbent rags to prevent me making too much of a mess. So we'll get the new filter ready to go into the canister. A little bit of oil on the O-ring just to separate it. Ideally, you're using clean oil, fresh oil. And what I like to do is I like to set the filter into the bowl. Usually there's not enough room to set the filter in and then the bowl in. You wind up having to do them both. But I'll press the filter up into the housing and then I'll lift the filter up. Now, of course, with this style of bowl, you get oil on it, it gets slippery, so I'm constantly wiping everything down. You're going to lift it up, you're going to turn it in, you're going to catch those first couple of threads. I got lucky this time and actually caught them right away. Usually it takes me a few tries, and then away you go. Now, with this filter, I'm going to take the ratchet to it. You don't want to make it so tight that it's hard to remove. You want to make it tight enough that vibration isn't going to set it off. So you're going to take it till it's snug or to hand tight, and then quarter turn past if you can. That's where you should be. I'm intentionally using a short ratchet so that I don't over tighten this. And once you're done, you're going to check for leaks, remove your lockout, purge oil, purge air through it, purge your oil, and you're done. That's a filter change.